I got a question the other day about how these two guitars compare, and I realized I didn't have a video on them. If I do, it's old, and it's way back there buried up in the archives. This is a D20, I'm sorry, D28. This is a D18 Golden Era, a D18 GE. This is a D18 V, vintage. And they're fairly comparable guitars as far as the location of the scalloping and that sort of thing. Basically, they're comparable guitars. This is the guitar you would pick if you wanted a 1 3/4 inch neck, and this is the one you would pick if you wanted an 11/16 inch neck. Now, there's some differences in between there. The V does not have the same kind of scalloping that this one does. The scalloping starts about an inch away from the sound hole, like an HD 28 would do. The Golden Era, the scalloping goes all the way up to the X. Both of these guitars have been modified in the same way. They both have shaved rear back braces. They both have had the popsicle brace taken out. And that's it. Okay, let's compare these two guitars. I have a long history with this V, and I will tell you right now that it does not have the stock neck on it. So that changes the sound a little bit from the way it was stock, but in my humble opinion, having had several of these guitars, it now sounds more like what it really should. sound like that. Stock neck was a piece of junk. It cracked right up here at the headstock, and the headstock just split clean off, and I mean clean, like you'd cut it with a razor blade. I sent a picture to John Arnold's, and he said, man, that's one of the worst pieces of wood I've ever seen for a neck. I tried to glue it and tried fixing everything, and it held for about a year, and finally it just came apart again. So I put a different neck on it. This is, in fact, a Martin neck, but it is a D-28 neck, so it has a volute on it rather than not having a volute, which strengthens this area where the headstock cracked. So I'm just going to disclose that it is not a stock D-18V, but in my experience, this is what it ought to be. So, the neck's not going to change. The neck is an individual thing, so it changed the sound of this guitar, but I think it changed it back into what it really should be, because I've had a different 18V myself personally, and it was a superb, really nice guitar. I A-B'd it and this one back to back, and the other one had more than this guitar had at the same time. But now, I think this one sounds really good. Now it's more robust. And that's just a factor of getting a good piece of wood on the neck like it ought to have on it. So I did this neck, and it's in another video somewhere. I did the neck. I put a shellac French polish on the shaft right here. I did lacquer up on the heel, lacquer on the headstock. I took the faceplate off the original neck, cut it off on the bandsaw, and put it on this new neck. Took the truss rod out, put it in here, and this is the original fingerboard too. So I stripped the original neck of all of its parts and put them in this neck. So we do have the original fingerboard, the original head plate, and the original truss rod in here. We just now have a good piece of wood. At one point, the saddle slot on this one cracked, and so I fixed that up, filled in the really deep saddle slot with ebony, and cut a new saddle slot, which is a true vintage slot this time. Put a new saddle in there, glued everything in. That's been solid now for close to 2 years, I think. So at the same time, I took the bridge off, took all the finish off away from underneath here, glued that back on. It's got a different pickguard on it. It's got a K&K pickup in it. Okay? So that's this D-18. On the D-18 GE, it is pretty well stock. Let's see what we have here, modification-wise. We have popsicle braces out. The rear back braces have been shaved to pre-94 height to make it more like an actual vintage guitar, which is supposed to be a replica. Previous owner changed the pickguard on it. I changed the saddle at one time. He likes a really high action. I put a stock GE saddle in there that I had that was the correct height, and I've just now cut that back down to make it a more normal action, 93 thousandths of an inch on the low E, 3/32. The saddle height is perfect now too. It's got non-slotted ebony pins. The bridge is slotted. That's about it. This guitar is 20 years old. I was shocked at that. 20 years flies. I worked on this way back then too. And when did I work on it? Like 2002 or something. It was a long time ago. And I remember the customer. And I remember doing the job and everything. And when I looked up the year, it was 1999. And I'm thinking, 20 years ago. Golly. Time flies. Anyway, it does not have a pickup in it. So that's one difference between it and the V, but I don't think that's a big major deal. Gosh, it's in spectacular condition. I love GEs. I nearly bought this for myself, but I don't really have a niche for it in the shop, And I'm kind of getting more and more back to 11/16 inch necks now. I don't know why, but... No. Yeah. I forgot the darn song in there. You know, you get to listening to the guitar and you forget what song you're playing. I like the right hand over here, but I like the left hand better on the V. The string chords definitely take a little more stretch. It's nothing I couldn't get used to, but I definitely notice it coming onto the bigger neck.